This is English shorthand dictation number 219 and the dictation speed is 160 words per minute. Ready? Start. It has been 5 years since Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the demonetization in November 2016 to achieve the objective of checking black money and corruption, printing of counterfeit currency and terror funding, while the opposition criticized the Modi government over note ban, alleging that none of the objectives of the move has been fulfilled. Demonetization has certainly helped not just the government but also the people at large. There are three ways in which demonetization helped Indian economy. Firstly, it has promoted cashless economy. With the announcement of demonetization, citizens in India started using digital modes of payments more often for their day-to-day transactions. Data suggests that since demonetization, penetration of digital transactions has increased consistently year after year. The unified payments interfaces were introduced in the post-demonetization period in the country and their rapid growth is truly stellar. Economists say that high level of digitization has given the economy capacity to grow without a corresponding increase in cash. During the nationwide lockdown imposed in 2020 to contain the spread of coronavirus, cashless economy proved to be a God-sent opportunity. During that period, people mostly ordered essentials online and made payments through online banking, debit or credit card, or through unified payments interface. If these means had not existed during the lockdown, people would have been forced to step out of house and would have risked contracting the disease. Out of the four key objectives of demonetization, India appears to have done well on three. Other than the rise in digital transactions, there has been a drop in fake currencies. There are also indications that the Indian economy is getting more formalized. One prominent economist of the country mentioned in a note that there are indicators that the informal economy has shrunk to 20% of GDP from 50% a few years ago. This is comparable to Europe and is much better than Latin American countries. According to experts, measures like demonetization and GST have helped the Indian economy in getting formalized. In the longer term, this will help in boosting India's tax revenues. Questions have arisen as to what has happened to old notes after demonetization. According to the information, the Reserve Bank of India does not recycle old notes. The specialty of old notes is that they do not completely dissolve in water nor leave color. In such cases, they can be used to make other paper item. The disruption that the demonetization of high value currency notes caused to people's lives and livelihoods and the Indian economy is still fresh in many people's memories. The direct impact on the informal economy that largely operated in cash and the consequent ripple effects across everyone connected with it, directly or indirectly, was widely reported at the time. Over the years since high denomination cash was made to suddenly disappear, it has come back at higher levels than before. In the face of this reversal, it becomes important to evaluate the long-term trajectory that the economy has taken post-demonetization. The return of cash makes improbable any claims of positive effects through the strong formalization of the Indian economy. The negative outcomes, however, may not have been erased by the increased cash intensity of the economy. The economy does not work like an elastic rubber band where once the stress is released, it comes back to the pre-stress configuration. Negative events tend to have long-term effects. Small firms that close because of a lack of demand do not reopen automatically once demand comes back. When people are unable to repay loans, taking a loan again, especially from informal sources, is not as easy. Hence, one can expect that there would be some longer-term negative effects of the shock that was demonetization, unless subsequent economic policy served to help those who were affected and alleviate these effects. As we look at how India's labor market has fared in the years following demonetization, we find that the situation had worsened substantially even before COVID-19 struck. For the Indian labor market, the announcement of demonetization came on the back of an already dismal economic situation. According to a survey from May to September 2016, a few months before the announcement of demonetization, overall employment rate was approximately 43%. This This rate refers to the number of individuals employed as a proportion of the population of working age people. Between January and April of 2017, only a few months after the announcement of demonetization, employment rates had fallen to 42%. Although this 1 percentage point fall does not seem like a significant effect when seen in terms of absolute number of the workforce, this adds up to a loss of 95 lakh jobs during this 4-month period. To put this in context, this number is comparable to the entire population of a city such as Hyderabad. Along with the small but significant reduction in employment rate, demonetization was also followed by a steep fall in the labor force participation rate, which is the share of people working, looking for work, or willing to work as a share of the working age population. The labor force participation rate dropped from around 50% before demonetization to around 45% in the months immediately after it, translating to about 4.77 crore people withdrawing from the labor force. A part of this reduction can be explained by the decline in the employment rate, but a large part of it came from people who were willing to work before but were not looking for work after that. Those people who do not have work but are willing to work are termed unemployed, and their share of the labor force is termed the unemployment rate, which in this case declined. While a declining unemployment rate is typically interpreted as a positive development, in this context the declining unemployment is not because those looking for jobs found them, but because they stopped looking. In fact, the fall in unemployment after demonetization can be attributed largely to a fall in the unemployment rates among young and less educated workers. It is likely that such workers, recognizing their bleak chances in the labor market, stopped seeking employment. Post-demonetization, the employment rate has kept declining, going below 40% in 2019. According to United Nations population estimates mentioned earlier, the working age population of India increased by 32 million between 2017 and 2019. Hence, just to maintain the employment rate of 42%, the economy would need to create around 13 million new jobs in these 2 years. But instead of that, we lost about 6 million jobs, which shows up as a reduction in the employment rate. This of course is on top of the 10 million lost in the months immediately after demonetization. In this period, the unemployment rate has steadily increased from the low point it hit in the months immediately after demonetization. While this could be a positive sign of the return of some of the discouraged workers into the labor market, the declining employment rate means that their chances of finding jobs are still diminishing. Hence, a part of the increase in the unemployment rate could also be a result of previously employed workers losing their jobs and moving into unemployment. The latter is possible since during the same time we see a decline in employment rates too. Notably, these trends are also seen in the official labor surveys carried out by the Government of India's employment and unemployment surveys conducted by the Labour Bureau. One can see about a 3 percentage point fall in the employment rate and a significant increase in the unemployment rate. This mirrors the story of shrinking work opportunities in the economy even as the working age population increases. Alongside the shrinking of the workforce and increase in unemployment, we also observe a shift in the composition of the workforce and the unemployed persons, both in pre-demonetization and post-demonetization periods. These trends are broadly confirmed in official employment surveys too. This is an alarming development given that the working age population is turning younger. The changes in the composition of the workforce show that younger people are finding it hard to get work and are either actively looking for work or are withdrawing from the labor force altogether. This inability of the economy to provide work to young workers has several ramifications. The younger generation is not only being deprived of work but also of the opportunity to gain experience and create social capital. These deficiencies have been shown to reduce earnings for workers in the long term. This also creates a pool of young people who are not in gainful employment, who are then amenable to mobilization for other purposes, including for creating social instability. Clearly, demonetization seems to have set in to play a shrinking of India's workforce alongside a specific lack of opportunities for young workers. Whether this is entirely because of the demonetization is a question over which empirical economists will continue to debate, but the more important question is the lack of any effective measures by the government to tackle the employment crisis.